The Power of Self-Discipline. Part 1. What if I told you that the life you're living right now isn't the easiest one? You might think, wait, I'm taking the easy road. I hit snooze, I scroll, I procrastinate. That's literally the path of least resistance. But here's the thing that's going to flip everything you thought you knew. Easy now means hard later, and hard now means easy later. And by the end of this story, you're going to understand why the most disciplined people aren't suffering more than you. They're just choosing a different kind of hard. Let me introduce you to Ryan. Ryan wasn't extraordinary. He wasn't a genius, wasn't lazy either, just somewhere in the middle. Average grades, average effort, average everything. His life had no major disasters, but also no real progress. He was stuck in what I call the comfortable plateau, that dangerous zone where nothing's terrible enough to force change, but nothing's good enough to feel proud of. Every morning, his alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., and every single morning he hit snooze, not once, 3, sometimes 4 times. Each time telling himself the same lie, tomorrow I'll wake up early. But tomorrow never came. It was always just another today filled with the same broken promises. Ryan had this friend, Daniel. Now Daniel was different. Daniel woke up before sunrise, went for runs, crushed his work deadlines, stayed in shape, and somehow still had energy left over. Ryan used to look at Daniel and think, man, he's got it easy. Must be nice to have that kind of natural discipline. But natural discipline? That's a myth we tell ourselves to avoid facing an uncomfortable truth. One Sunday morning, Ryan slept until almost 10 a.m. His mom had tried waking him up multiple times. Each time, same response. Just 5 more minutes. When he finally dragged himself out of bed, the first thing he did, grabbed his phone, scrolled through Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. 30 minutes evaporated, just gone. Then he remembered he had a project due Monday, tomorrow, and he hadn't even started. Now Ryan was stuck. He had an entire day of work ahead of him, but his body felt heavy. His mind felt foggy, and here's the kicker. He hadn't even done anything yet. He was exhausted from doing nothing. That's the paradox of the undisciplined life. You're tired not from effort, but from avoidance. He sat there thinking, if only I were more disciplined, I wouldn't be in this mess. That evening, Ryan went to the park. He spotted Daniel finishing a run, sweat dripping, but there was this glow, this energy. Ryan, half joking but also a bit annoyed, called out, "Dude, why do you torture yourself like this? What's the point of all this hard work?" Daniel smiled, caught his breath, and sat down on a nearby bench. Torture? Yeah, I guess it feels like that sometimes. But here's what I figured out. I just choose my hard. Ryan looked confused. Choose your hard? What does that even mean? Daniel leaned back. Look, waking up early is hard. Running in the cold is hard. Pushing through muscle soreness is hard. All of that? Difficult. But you know what else is hard? Being overweight, being tired all the time, dealing with regret, getting sick because you didn't take care of yourself. That's hard too. He paused, letting it sink in. The difference is one kind of hard makes me better. The other kind of hard just makes me worse. Both roads are difficult, Ryan, but only one leads somewhere good. Those words hit Ryan like a freight train. He'd never thought about it that way. He'd always assumed he was taking the easy path, sleeping in, avoiding discomfort, choosing instant gratification. But was it really easy? Or was it just a different flavor of hard, the kind that slowly eroded his self-respect? That night, Ryan couldn't sleep, not because of anxiety, but because something had shifted. He kept replaying Daniel's words, "Choose your hard." The next morning, his alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. His hand moved toward the snooze button, muscle memory, but then he stopped. He remembered the conversation. He asked himself a simple question. What kind of hard do I want? Getting up right now? Hard. Staying in bed, feeling guilty all day, rushing through work, living with regret? Also hard. His mind and body fought for a few seconds. But this time, something was different. He made a choice. He got up. That first day was brutal. He felt groggy, tired, unmotivated. He went for a jog. Barely lasted 10 minutes before he was gasping for air. He thought, "This isn't for me. I'm not built for this." But then he reminded himself, "This hard will make me stronger." Slowly, Ryan started changing his daily routine. Everything felt difficult at first. Waking up early, studying on time, cutting down phone usage, every single thing required effort. And every time his mind wanted to quit, he asked himself that one question: which hard am I choosing? A few weeks passed. Ryan noticed something. He had more energy. Waking up wasn't as painful anymore. His work was getting done on time. And most importantly, he felt proud of himself. Not because he was perfect, but because he was keeping promises to himself. One day, there was a big presentation at university. In the past, Ryan would have avoided these moments. He'd prepare last minute, panic, and stumble through it. But this time, he'd prepared in advance. He'd practiced. When he walked on stage, sure, there were nerves. But he spoke confidently, clearly, powerfully. After the presentation, his professor pulled him aside. "Ryan, that was excellent. Really impressive work." Ryan couldn't believe it. This was the same guy who used to procrastinate on everything. Who was this person? That evening, he called Daniel. "Man, you were right. Life is hard either way. We just get to choose which hard we want to deal with." Daniel laughed. "That's it. That's the whole game. That's discipline." Ryan was starting to understand. Discipline isn't punishment. It's a choice. He used to think disciplined people made their lives harder for no reason. But now he realized they just chose the right kind of hard. Over time, Ryan made more changes. He cut out junk food. He focused on his goals. He stopped waiting for motivation and just did the work. And every time he had to make a decision, he'd ask himself, does this feel easy now but hard later? Or hard now but easy later? Slowly, this thinking became automatic. He didn't have to push himself as much anymore because he understood that every path has difficulty. The only question was, which difficulty would make him a better person? One day, Ryan was thinking about his old life, the days when he'd sleep in, procrastinate, and live in a constant state of guilt. He realized something profound, that life wasn't easy either. It was hard, just a different kind of hard, the kind that led nowhere. Now his life still had challenges, hard work, early mornings, self-control. But these challenges had meaning. They were building something. They were taking him toward a better future. Ryan's story isn't a fairy tale. There was no magic moment, just one small shift. He learned to choose his hard. And here's the truth most people miss. You will face difficulty no matter what. If you don't choose discipline, life will still be hard. You'll just be dealing with consequences instead of progress. But if you choose discipline, the difficulty becomes your investment. It compounds. It builds you up instead of tearing you down. Every morning when that alarm goes off, every time you feel like procrastinating, every time the easy option appears, that's your moment. That's where you decide what kind of life you want. Ryan still isn't perfect. Some mornings he still hits snooze. Some days he still procrastinates. But here's the difference. Now he's aware. Now he knows that every single time he has a choice, and maybe that's the biggest win of all. Understanding that discipline isn't a talent you're born with. It's a decision you make every single day. So next time you think something is too hard, ask yourself this. If I don't do this, what will that be like? You'll find your answer. Because the truth is, life is never easy. It's just hard in different ways. And your future depends on which hard you're willing to embrace. Ryan's life wasn't the same anymore. He'd learned to choose his hard, and gradually his habits were transforming. But life doesn't stay on one level. Just when he thought he had everything under control, a new challenge appeared. Motivation. In the beginning, Ryan was full of enthusiasm. Every morning felt exciting. Waking up early, running, studying, it all came with this rush of energy. He felt unstoppable. He thought, I'll never go back to my old ways. But after a few weeks, something started to fade. The excitement dimmed. Now when the alarm went off, there was no thrill. Running felt like a chore. Opening his textbooks made his mind wander. One morning, Ryan hit snooze. He stayed in bed. He told himself, I'm just not feeling it today. I'll skip today and start fresh tomorrow. That line. That same old line he used to tell himself before. He did get up eventually, but something felt off. Guilt crept in, like he'd broken a promise to himself. He thought, am I becoming the old Ryan again? That day at university, he couldn't focus. His mind kept circling back to one question. Why was this so easy before, and now it feels impossible? Did I lose my motivation? That evening, he went to the park where Daniel was running as usual. Ryan sat on the bench, quiet this time, lost in thought. Daniel finished his run and walked over. What's up? You didn't run today? Ryan sighed. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just not feeling it anymore. At first, there was this excitement. Now everything feels boring. I think I've lost my motivation. Daniel took a sip of water, smiled, and said, So you finally fell into the trap. Ryan looked confused. What trap? The motivation trap, Daniel replied. Ryan's confusion deepened. What do you mean? Daniel sat down. Look, in the beginning, everyone gets motivated. It's new, it's exciting, so everything feels easy. But motivation never lasts. It comes and goes. If you depend on motivation to do your work, every time it disappears, you'll stop. Ryan listened carefully. The real power isn't in motivation, Daniel continued. It's in routine. When you do the same thing at the same time every day, without thinking about it, your brain stops debating. Then it doesn't matter if you feel like it or not. The work just happens. Ryan hesitated. But how do I do it when I don't feel like it? Daniel grinned. That's the skill, doing it even when you don't feel like it. That night, Ryan thought long and hard. He realized he was falling back into the same old mistake, waiting for motivation to show up before taking action. The next morning, the alarm went off. Ryan's mind said, I don't feel like getting up. And that's exactly why he got up. Today, I don't feel like it. And that's precisely why I need to do it. He got up. No excitement, no rush. He just got up because he'd decided that's what he does now. He put on his shoes and went to the park. While running, his mind kept saying, "Stop, what's the point?" But he noticed something interesting. His body kept moving. Even though his mind resisted, his legs kept going. He started to understand. You don't need to feel like doing something to actually do it. You just need to start. Over the next few days, Ryan experimented. He decided he wouldn't wait for motivation. He'd simply follow his routine. 5:30 a.m. Wake up, whether he felt like it or not. 30 minutes. Run, whether it was fun or not. Evening. Study, whether he was focused or not. At first, it felt robotic, like he was a machine. But after a few days, he noticed something powerful. His work no longer depended on his mood. One day, he was exhausted. University work was piling up. His mind was heavy. He thought, "I'll skip studying today." But then he told himself, "I already made this decision. This isn't a new choice." He sat down and opened his books. The first 20 minutes were rough. Nothing was sinking in. But after that, his mind slowly started to focus. That day, Ryan had a huge realization. Action creates motivation. Motivation doesn't create action. He used to think, when I feel like it, I'll do it. Now he understood. When I do it, I start to feel like it. A few weeks later, Ryan's routine became so strong that he didn't even have to think about it anymore. The alarm went off. He got up. Evening came. He studied. He wasn't fighting himself anymore because the decision had already been made. One day, his younger brother came to him. "Bro, how do you study every day? I just can't get myself to do it." Ryan smiled. That was the exact question he used to ask himself. "Don't wait for the feeling," Ryan said. "Just pick a time and sit down at that time every day. It'll be hard at first, but after a while, it becomes a habit." His brother asked, "But what if I don't feel like it?" Ryan answered, "Then do it anyway, because that's where the real difference is made." Gradually, Ryan started standing out among his friends. While others worked based on how they felt, Ryan worked based on his routine. His grades improved, his health got better, and most importantly, his confidence grew. He now knew he could trust himself, because he didn't just work when he felt motivated, he worked even when he didn't. One evening, Ryan and Daniel were sitting in the park again. This time, Ryan had that same glow Daniel used to have. "I get it now," Ryan said. "Motivation is a trap because it makes us think we can't do anything unless we feel like it." Daniel nodded. "Exactly, and routine sets you free, because then you don't have to think. You just do." Ryan laughed. "I used to think being disciplined meant being motivated every single day. Now I realize being disciplined means moving forward even without motivation." Ryan's life still had ups and downs. Some days were good, some were tough, but now his system was so solid that he didn't stop. He'd learned that feelings aren't reliable. Sometimes you're excited, sometimes you're bored, sometimes you're tired. If you always work based on your feelings, you'll never be consistent. But if you build a routine, feelings have less power over you. Ryan wasn't perfect every day, but he was consistent, and in the end, that's what matters. His story wasn't just his anymore. He started teaching his friends, his brother, and gradually more people. Don't wait for motivation. because motivation is like a guest. It comes and goes. But routine is like a home. It's always there. And when you have a strong routine, you don't need motivation. Your work happens automatically, like breathing. Now, every morning when Ryan woke up, he didn't ask himself if he felt like it. He just got up, because that had become his identity. Ryan's life had changed significantly. He understood discipline, built his routine, and no longer relied on motivation. His life felt more stable and focused than ever before. But just as he got comfortable at one level, life introduced another challenge: willpower. University exams were approaching. Ryan had already set his routine: wake up early, exercise a bit, then study. Everything was going smoothly, but this challenge was different. One day, Ryan was studying. His textbook was open, but his phone kept pulling his attention. Every few minutes, a notification, WhatsApp, Instagram, a meme. He told himself, "I'll just check it real quick, then I'll focus." He picked up his phone, and then the inevitable happened. One notification turned into 30 minutes. Gone, just like that. When he looked at the clock, frustration hit. "I thought I was disciplined now. What's happening?" That day he realized that even with a solid routine, small distractions were eating away at his consistency. And the most dangerous part? It started feeling normal. One day during practice, he noticed he wasn't as confident as before. Some points felt shaky. His flow was broken. "What's going on?" he thought. "I've become disciplined." That evening, he went to the park. Daniel was there as always. Ryan looked a bit troubled. "What's up?" Daniel asked. "You seem distracted." Ryan said, "Man, I'm following my routine, but these little distractions, my phone, laziness, small temptations, fighting them is getting harder." Daniel thought for a moment. "You know why this is happening?" Ryan shook his head. "Because your willpower is getting weak." Ryan was shocked. "But I'm more disciplined than ever," Daniel explained. "Discipline and willpower are related, but they're not the same. You're following your routine. That's good. But when small temptations come and you give in every time, like just one quick phone check, your willpower muscle gets weaker." Ryan looked confused. "Muscle?" Daniel smiled. "Yeah, just like you have muscles in the gym, you have a willpower muscle in your brain. If you use it, it gets stronger. If you keep taking the easy road, it gets weaker." Ryan listened carefully. Every time you resist a small temptation, not picking up your phone, not hitting snooze, that's like one rep in the gym. And every rep makes you mentally stronger. That night, Ryan had a new understanding. He used to think big achievements required big effort. Now he realized the real game was hidden in small daily decisions. The next day, he tried a small experiment. His alarm went off. His mind wanted 5 more minutes, but he told himself, "This is 1 rep." He got up immediately. Later, while studying, a notification buzzed. His hand automatically reached for his phone, but he stopped himself, took a deep breath. "This is another rep." He didn't pick up the phone. At first, resisting every temptation felt like a struggle, like 2 people fighting inside him, one wanting the easy path, one wanting to be strong. But every time he made the right choice, he felt a small victory inside. Gradually, he noticed those small wins were building real strength. Now when notifications came, resisting felt a little easier. When the urge to hit snooze appeared, he could handle it faster. One day, Ryan was in the library. His friends around him were laughing, chatting, constantly checking their phones. Before, Ryan would have done the same, but this time he observed himself. His mind wanted to join the conversation, relax a bit. But he told himself, this is another rep. He stayed focused on his book. After a while, he realized his focus was stronger than before. Distractions didn't pull him as easily anymore. That evening when he got home, he felt a different kind of satisfaction, not just from finishing his work, but from controlling himself. He realized the real victory isn't external, it's internal. A few days later, Ryan faced another situation. His favorite web series dropped a new season. In the past, he would have binged the whole thing in one day. This time, his mind really wanted to. He thought, just one episode. But then he asked himself, will it really stop at one? He remembered his old days. He turned off the TV and told himself, this is a tough rep, but this is what makes me strong. He didn't watch the series, and the surprising part? The next day, the urge was weaker. He understood. Temptations are like muscles, too. If you keep feeding them, they get stronger. If you ignore them, they slowly weaken. Now Ryan had a new game in his life, the reps game. Every day, he'd count how many reps he did. Waking up early, 1 rep. Ignoring the phone, 1 rep. Skipping junk food, 1 rep. Studying on time, 1 rep. Gradually, this game became fun. He didn't fear temptations anymore. He saw them as opportunities to get stronger. One day, his friend Jake came to him. Dude, how do you have so much control? I get distracted every single time. Ryan smiled. I used to be the same. The difference is, now I train myself with small things. Jake asked, how? You've been to the gym, right? Ryan said. Yeah. What do you do there? Lift weights? Do you lift the heaviest weight on day 1? No, I build up gradually. Exactly, Ryan said. Same principle here. Start by controlling small temptations. Gradually, your willpower gets stronger. Jake started to get it. Now Ryan wasn't just changing himself, he was inspiring others too. A few months later, exams came. This time, Ryan had prepared with more focus than ever. Distractions were minimal. His mind was more stable. When results came out, Ryan performed excellently. But this time, he was happier about something else. He'd learned to control himself. He realized willpower isn't magic, it's a skill. And this skill gets stronger with daily practice. If you always give in to your impulses, hitting snooze, scrolling, procrastinating, you're weakening your willpower muscle. But if you resist a little bit each time, you're making yourself mentally stronger. Now Ryan understood. To win big battles in life, you first have to win small battles. And these small battles happen every day, every hour, every minute. Now whenever a temptation appeared, he didn't fear it. He just smiled and thought, another rep. And maybe that's the real secret to becoming strong. Because strength isn't built in one day. It's built from thousands of tiny decisions. Ryan wasn't the same person anymore. He wasn't just disciplined. He was mentally strong. And now he knew that no matter how tough life got, he could handle it because he'd trained the most powerful muscle in his mind, willpower. And when you have strong willpower, you don't just control your actions, you control your entire life. The power of self-discipline. Part 2. Ryan was getting stronger. He'd learned to train his willpower, resist temptations, and build mental toughness. His routine was solid. His habits were forming. He felt like he was finally in control. But just as he settled into this new version of himself, life threw him a curveball that would teach him something even more powerful than willpower alone. It was the week of the university's cultural festival. The entire campus buzzed with energy, music blasting, dance rehearsals everywhere, event planning chaos, and most of all, social media madness. Everyone was posting reels, sharing stories, chasing trends. Ryan thought he'd enjoy the festival while maintaining his study schedule. He figured he had enough willpower now, he could balance it. The first day went fine. He hung out with friends for a bit, then came back and studied. No problem. But gradually, things started shifting. Just 10 minutes of scrolling, he'd tell himself, but 10 minutes became 40. Then he'd think, no worries, I'm strong now, I can manage. But the truth? His control was slipping. One day, Ryan noticed something alarming. While studying, he was picking up his phone every 15 to 20 minutes. And each time, it took willpower to put it back down. He was getting exhausted. The constant battle was draining him. That evening, he met Daniel at their usual coffee shop. This time, frustration was written all over Ryan's face. Man, Ryan said, I'm trying so hard to stay in control, but this environment, distractions keep coming. I have to resist constantly. I'm tired. Daniel listened carefully, then said quietly, You're making a mistake. Ryan looked up. What mistake? You're trying to fight everything with willpower. But the real game isn't willpower, it's environment. Ryan looked confused. Daniel pointed to a chocolate bar on the table. Imagine this chocolate is off limits because you're on a diet. Now, if I put this chocolate right in front of you every single day, how long can you resist? Ryan laughed. Not very long. Exactly, Daniel said. That's the point. The most disciplined people don't constantly fight temptations. They design their environment so temptations don't show up in the first place. Ryan started understanding. If you keep your phone next to you while studying, Daniel continued, you'll need willpower every single time. But if the phone isn't there at all, there's no fight, no decision fatigue. That night, Ryan thought about his entire setup. He realized he'd been making things unnecessarily hard for himself. He was putting himself in tempting situations and then relying purely on willpower to survive. The next day, he decided to try something different. This time, not with willpower, with environment design. First change, waking up. His phone used to be right next to his bed, making it easy to hit snooze. Now he put his alarm clock across the room. The next morning, when the alarm went off, he had to physically get up and walk across the room to turn it off. And once he was up, going back to bed felt less appealing. Simple trick, he thought, but it works. Next, he changed his study environment. Before, he studied in his bedroom, where his bed, phone, and all other distractions lived. Now, he decided to study at the library. At the library, there was no bed, fewer distractions, other people studying, which automatically increased his focus. Then came the biggest step. He deleted Instagram and several time-wasting apps from his phone. At first, it felt like a huge sacrifice. But the moment he deleted them, he felt relief. Now he didn't have to resist every 10 minutes. The temptation simply wasn't there. A few days later, Ryan noticed something incredible. His need for willpower had dropped dramatically. Before, he had to fight himself constantly. Now, the battles were fewer. One day, his friend Jake came over and saw Ryan's study desk, completely clean, No extra stuff, no distractions. Dude, how do you stay so focused? Jake asked. Ryan smiled. I don't try to focus. I try to remove distractions. Jake looked puzzled. What's the difference? If your phone is in front of you, Ryan explained, you'll have to resist it constantly. But if the phone isn't there, you don't have to resist at all. Jake nodded slowly. That makes sense. Gradually, Ryan started designing his entire life. On Sundays, he'd meal prep for the week so daily junk food temptations would decrease. He'd lay out his workout clothes the night before so morning decisions were automatic. He made an agreement with his friends. No unnecessary calls or messages during study hours. Now, his life had fewer decisions and more action. And that was the real shift. One day, sitting in the park, Ryan told Daniel, I used to think being strong meant fighting every temptation. Now I realize being smart means reducing the temptations. Daniel grinned. Exactly, Ryan continued. Now, I don't have to push myself constantly. My environment pushes me in the right direction. He didn't need to convince himself to study anymore because his setup naturally led to studying. He didn't need to fight himself to wake up early because his alarm forced him up. He didn't need to overthink avoiding junk food because healthy options were already prepared. Slowly, Ryan realized, real discipline isn't what you see on the outside, like I resisted. Real discipline is invisible, like I never put myself in that situation. Now Ryan's life felt easier, but this ease wasn't luck. It was design. He'd structured his life so doing the right thing became easy and doing the wrong thing became hard. And that was the real secret. Because if you rely on willpower all the time, eventually you'll get exhausted. But if you control your environment, life starts controlling itself. Ryan now understood willpower is important, but environment is more important because willpower is like a battery. It has limits, but environment is like a system. It keeps pushing you in the right direction over and over. And when your system is right, success becomes automatic. Ryan wasn't just working hard anymore, he was working smart. His journey wasn't just about struggle anymore, it was about strategy. And now, every time he faced a challenge, he asked himself one question. How can I make this easier? That question was changing his life every single day. Ryan had become significantly stronger. He understood discipline, built routines, trained his willpower, and even designed his environment to make the right choices easier. His life felt more stable and focused than ever. But just as he started feeling comfortable, life presented him with another subtle but dangerous challenge, one that appears small but causes major damage over time. A big opportunity was coming. Ryan had been selected to give an important presentation at university, and if he performed well, he could land an internship. This was a huge step for him. He started preparing early, made notes, created slides, practiced. Everything was on track. But during this time, a small habit started creeping back in. One night, Ryan thought, I'll just relax a bit today. Just one episode. He opened his laptop and started a series. One episode finished. One more won't hurt. I still have time. Before he knew it, one turned into 2, 3, and suddenly it was 2 a.m. The next morning, his alarm went off, but his sleep wasn't complete. He hit snooze, then again and again. He finally woke up late. His practice session missed. Ryan told himself, no big deal. I'm just tired today. I'll do it properly tomorrow. But the next day, The same pattern repeated. Just one episode, just 10 minutes. I'll start seriously tomorrow. Gradually, he was drifting away from his preparation. The work was still getting done, but not with the same sharpness. His focus had dimmed, and most dangerously, this started feeling normal. One day during practice, he felt it. He wasn't as confident as before. Some points felt shaky. His flow was breaking. What's happening? He thought. I understand discipline now. That evening, he went to meet Daniel at the coffee shop. Daniel could tell something was bothering him. What's up? Daniel asked. You look worried? Ryan sighed. I get all this stuff. Discipline, routine, environment. But I keep getting caught in these small traps. Like just one episode or just a little rest. And then it affects my big work. Daniel thought for a moment, then said, You know what's happening. You're falling into a very common trap. Delayed discounting. Ryan looked confused. What's that? Daniel explained. Your brain is wired to value immediate small rewards more than future big rewards. Meaning, watching one episode right now gives you instant pleasure. But giving a great presentation, that reward is in the future, so your brain automatically picks the immediate reward. Ryan sat quietly. Daniel continued, The truth is, every time you make that choice, you're making a trade. You're giving up what you want most for what you want right now. That line echoed in Ryan's mind. I'm losing what I want most. That night, Ryan thought deeply. He asked himself, honestly, what do I really want? The answer was clear. He wanted the internship. He wanted growth. He wanted a better future. Then he asked himself another question. What am I actually doing? The answer was uncomfortable. He was chasing small comforts. The next day, he tried a new approach. He told himself, whenever I face a small temptation, I won't just think about now, I'll think about later. That evening, the same situation appeared. He opened his laptop. The series thumbnail stared at him. His mind said, just one episode. But this time, Ryan paused. He closed his eyes and imagined two scenarios. First, he watches the episode, stays up late, wakes up tired, misses practice, and performs average in the presentation. Second, he closes the laptop, sleeps early, wakes up fresh, practices well, and performs confidently in the presentation. He asked himself, which life do I want? After a few seconds of silence, he closed the laptop. That day, for the first time, he consciously chose the future over the present. Over the next few days, he kept practicing this. Every time a temptation appeared, he asked himself one question. What am I choosing right now, and what's the cost? Gradually, he started seeing the difference. One day, he was studying when his friends invited him to hang out. His mind wanted to go, relax a bit, but he asked himself, am I trading my future for fun right now? He stayed and studied. Another day, he was tempted to binge-watch videos online. He paused, visualized the consequences, and chose to work on his presentation instead. Slowly, Ryan was learning to delay gratification, and the more he practiced it, the easier it became. One evening, he told Daniel, I used to think I just lacked willpower. Now I realize I was trading my big goals for tiny pleasures without even noticing. Daniel nodded. Most people do. They don't see the trade. They just see the immediate option. Ryan continued, Now I pause. I ask myself, is this worth it? And most of the time the answer is no. The presentation day arrived. Ryan had prepared thoroughly. He'd resisted distractions, stayed disciplined, and prioritized his future over immediate comfort. When he walked on stage, he felt ready, confident, clear. He delivered the presentation powerfully. The professors were impressed, and a few days later, he got the news. He'd landed the internship. But Ryan's happiness wasn't just about the internship. It was about something deeper. He'd learned to see beyond the moment. He'd learned that every small choice is actually a big trade. Now, whenever he faced a decision, he didn't just think about how he felt in that moment. He thought about where that decision would take him. Do I want to feel good for the next hour, or do I want to feel proud for the next year? And that shift in perspective changed everything. Ryan's friend Jake noticed the change. "Dude, how do you say no to stuff so easily? I can never resist." Ryan smiled. "I don't say no to the thing. I say yes to my future. When you see it that way, it's not a sacrifice, it's an investment." Jake thought about that. Ryan continued, "Every time you pick instant gratification, you're borrowing from your future self, and your future self has to pay it back with regret, missed opportunities, and wasted potential." Now Ryan had a new lens through which he saw every decision. Not just, do I feel like it? But, will my future self thank me for this? And almost always, the answer guided him to the right choice. He realized that disciplined people aren't special. They're not more motivated or more talented. They just have a longer time horizon. They see further ahead. They understand that today's discomfort is tomorrow's advantage. Ryan wasn't perfect. He still slipped sometimes, still made mistakes. But now he caught himself faster. He'd pause, reassess, and redirect. One night, he was scrolling through social media, something he'd been avoiding. He caught himself and thought, "What am I doing? This isn't aligned with who I want to be." He put the phone down, not because he had superhuman willpower, but because he'd trained himself to see the trade. Weeks passed. Ryan's consistency grew. His focus sharpened, his results improved, and most importantly, his self-respect deepened. He used to rely on motivation, then willpower, then environment. Now he had something even stronger: clarity. Clarity about what he wanted and what he was willing to trade for it. One day Daniel asked him, "What's the biggest thing you've learned?" Ryan thought for a moment. "That I'm always choosing. Even when I think I'm not deciding, I am. Staying in bed is a choice. Scrolling is a choice. Procrastinating is a choice. And every choice has a price." Daniel smiled. "And now you're choosing consciously." "Exactly," Ryan said. "I used to live on autopilot. Now I'm the pilot." That shift from passenger to pilot was everything. Ryan's life wasn't perfect, but it was intentional, and that made all the difference. He stopped blaming circumstances, stopped waiting for the right mood, stopped hoping things would magically get easier. Instead, he took control. He designed his environment. He trained his willpower. He delayed gratification. He chose his future over his feelings. And slowly, day by day, choice by choice, he was becoming the person he always wanted to be. Not because he was special, but because he was strategic. Not because life got easier, but because he got smarter about handling the hard. Ryan had learned the ultimate lesson. Discipline isn't about denying yourself pleasure. It's about choosing which pleasure you want more, the quick hit now or the lasting reward later. And when you truly understand that trade, discipline stops being a struggle. It becomes a strategy, a way of life, a path to freedom. Because the irony is, the more disciplined you are now, the more freedom you have later. The more you sacrifice short-term comfort, the more long-term ease you create. Ryan used to think discipline was a prison. Now he knew it was the key to the life he'd always wanted. And that realization changed everything. The power of self-discipline. Part 3. Ryan had come a long way. He'd mastered the basics of discipline, built unshakable routines, trained his willpower, designed his environment, and learned to delay gratification. His internship was going well. His grades were strong. His life felt more aligned than ever before. But something interesting happens when you start winning consistently. You begin to realize that discipline isn't just about achieving goals. It's about something deeper. It's about who you become in the process. One Saturday morning, Ryan woke up at 5:30 a.m. Not because his alarm went off. He'd actually woken up a few minutes before it. He got up, went for a run, came back, showered, and sat down with his coffee and a book. As he sat there, he had a strange realization. He wasn't doing any of this because he had to. He was doing it because this was simply who he was now. The struggle was gone. The internal debate had faded. He didn't need to convince himself anymore. Waking up early, working out, studying, eating well, these weren't tasks on a checklist. They were just him. That's when it hit him. Discipline had become his identity. He used to be the guy trying to be disciplined. Now he was simply a disciplined person. And that shift, subtle as it was, changed everything. Later that week, Ryan met up with Daniel at their favorite coffee shop. Daniel immediately noticed something different about Ryan. "You seem lighter," Daniel said. Ryan smiled. "I feel lighter. It's weird. I'm doing the same things, maybe even more, but it doesn't feel hard anymore." Daniel leaned back. "That's because you've crossed the threshold." "What threshold?" "The one between effort and identity," Daniel explained. "At first, discipline is something you do. It requires effort, willpower, strategy. But if you stick with it long enough, it becomes something you are. And when it's part of your identity, it stops feeling like work." Ryan nodded slowly. That made sense. "Think about it," Daniel continued. "Does a basketball player think, 'Should I practice today?' No, they're a basketball player. Practice is what they do. It's not a decision anymore. It's their identity." Ryan thought about his old self, the guy who hit snooze 5 times, who procrastinated, who lived in constant guilt. That person felt like a stranger now, not because Ryan was judging him, but because that version of himself simply didn't exist anymore. "I remember when waking up early felt impossible," Ryan said. "Now, I can't imagine sleeping in. It would feel wrong, like I'm betraying who I am." Daniel smiled. "Exactly. That's the power of identity shift. You're not fighting your old habits anymore. You've literally become a different person." Over the next few weeks, Ryan started noticing this shift in other areas too. He used to struggle with eating healthy. Now, when someone offered him junk food, he didn't have to resist. He just naturally thought, "That's not what I eat." Not from a place of superiority, but simply because it didn't align with who he was. He used to battle with procrastination. Now, when it was time to work, he worked. Not because he forced himself, but because he was someone who did his work on time. One day at the gym, Ryan ran into an old classmate, Tom, who looked exhausted. "Man, I don't know how you do it," Tom said. watching Ryan finish a tough workout, I can barely get myself to the gym once a week. Ryan thought about how to answer. A year ago, he would have said the same thing about Daniel. It's not about motivation, Ryan finally said. It's about deciding who you are. I'm someone who works out. That's just part of my identity now, so I don't debate it. Tom looked skeptical. But doesn't it still feel hard sometimes? Oh, absolutely, Ryan admitted. Some days I'm tired, sore, not feeling it at all. But I still show up. Not because I'm superhuman, but because I've committed to being this kind of person. And this kind of person shows up. Tom thought about that. Ryan continued. You know what's interesting? The hard part isn't actually the workout. The hard part is deciding each time whether or not to go. But once it's part of your identity, that decision is already made. You're just executing. That conversation stuck with Tom. A few weeks later, he texted Ryan, I get it now. I stopped trying to get motivated and started seeing myself as someone who works out. It's working. Ryan smiled. The shift was spreading. But identity shift isn't just about what you do. It's also about what you don't do. Ryan noticed he'd stopped doing certain things without even thinking about it. He didn't binge-watch shows anymore. He didn't doom-scroll social media. He didn't stay up late for no reason, not because he'd made strict rules, but because those behaviors didn't match the person he'd become. One evening, his roommate Mark was watching a new series and invited Ryan to join. Nah, I'm good, Ryan said casually. Mark laughed. Dude, you've changed. Old Ryan would have been all over this. Ryan paused. Yeah, I guess I have. But honestly, it doesn't even feel like I'm missing out. I'd rather read or work on my projects. Mark shook his head in disbelief. That's wild. I wish I had your discipline. Ryan almost corrected him. It's not discipline, it's identity. But he decided to just let it go. Because, here's the thing, from the outside, it looks like discipline, like constant effort and sacrifice. But from the inside, it just feels natural, effortless even. That's the paradox of true discipline. The more disciplined you become, the less it feels like discipline. A few weeks later, Ryan faced his first real test of this new identity. His internship project hit a major roadblock. A key part of his work wasn't functioning, and the deadline was tight. He was stressed, frustrated, and honestly, exhausted. Old Ryan would have panicked, would have procrastinated out of fear, would have stayed up all night in a last-minute scramble, fueled by anxiety and energy drinks. But this Ryan, he handled it differently. He broke the problem into smaller pieces. He scheduled focused work blocks. He asked for help when he needed it. He maintained his sleep schedule because he knew a tired brain wouldn't solve complex problems. One night, around 10 p.m., he was still working. His roommate Mark walked by and said, Dude, you're still up? I thought you always slept by 10:30. Ryan looked at the clock. You're right. I need to stop. But isn't your deadline soon? Yeah, but working tired won't help. I'll get up early and tackle it fresh. Mark looked amazed. I could never do that. I'd panic and stay up all night. Ryan shut his laptop. A year ago, I would have too. But I've learned that discipline isn't just about pushing hard. It's also about knowing when to rest. Because rest is part of performance. The next morning, Ryan woke up at 5 a.m., refreshed. Within 2 hours, he'd solved the problem that had stumped him the night before. That's when he truly understood Discipline isn't about working yourself to death. It's about sustainable excellence. The project deadline came. Ryan delivered solid work on time. His supervisor was impressed, not just by the quality, but by how calm and composed Ryan had been throughout the process. Most interns panic during crunch time, his supervisor said. You stayed steady. That's rare. Ryan thanked him, but inside, he was thinking about something else. He was thinking about how his identity had carried him through. He didn't need motivation or willpower or tricks. He just showed up as himself, and that self was disciplined, focused, and reliable. One evening, Ryan was journaling, a habit he'd picked up recently. He wrote, I used to think discipline was about controlling my actions. Now I realize it's about choosing my identity. When you decide who you are, your actions follow naturally. You don't have to force them. He paused, then added, The question isn't, what do I want anymore? It's, who do I want to be? Because once you know who you are, what you do becomes obvious. That clarity was powerful, revolutionary even. Ryan thought about people he admired, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists who excelled in their fields. He used to think they had some special gift, some secret formula. Now he understood. They'd simply committed to an identity and lived it consistently. A writer writes, a runner runs, an entrepreneur builds, not because they're always motivated, but because that's who they are. And the beautiful thing? Anyone can make that choice. Anyone can decide who they want to be and start living from that identity. The next week, Ryan's younger cousin, Emma, came to visit. She was struggling in high school, grades slipping, motivation gone, feeling lost. Over lunch, she vented, I just can't get myself to study. I know I should, but I never do. I'm just lazy, I guess. Ryan shook his head. You're not lazy. You just haven't decided who you are yet. Emma looked confused. Let me ask you something, Ryan said. Do you see yourself as a good student? Emma hesitated. I mean, I want to be, but I'm not. That's the problem, Ryan said gently. You're waiting to become a good student before you act like one. But it works the opposite way. You act like a good student, and then you become one. I don't get it, Ryan explained. Right now, you probably think, I'm not a good student, so why would I study? But what if you flipped it? What if you said, I'm a good student study, so I'm going to study, not to become a good student, but because I already am one. Emma's eyes widened slightly. It's a mental shift, Ryan continued. You're not trying to be someone you're not. You're stepping into who you've decided to be, and then your actions align with that identity. Emma sat quietly for a moment. So, I just decide I'm a good student and then act like it? Exactly. And at first it might feel like you're pretending, but if you keep showing up as that person, eventually it stops being an act. It becomes real. A few weeks later, Emma texted him, I tried what you said. I started telling myself I'm a focused student before I study. It's weird, but it's working. I actually studied for 2 hours today without my phone. Ryan smiled. The shift was contagious. As Ryan continued growing, he realized something else. Identity-based discipline is self-reinforcing. Every time he showed up as his disciplined self, it strengthened that identity. And the stronger the identity, the easier it was to show up. It was a virtuous cycle. He also noticed that his identity influenced more than just his actions. It influenced his decisions, his friendships, even how he spent his free time. He naturally gravitated toward people who were also growth-oriented. He found himself reading more, learning new skills, seeking challenges, not because he forced himself, but because that's what people like him did. One Saturday, Ryan declined an invitation to a party. His friends were surprised. "Come on, man. You're always working. Live a little." Ryan laughed. "I'm not against fun. I'm just more interested in building something meaningful right now. That's what excites me." One friend joked, "You've changed, dude. You used to be fun." Ryan didn't take offense. He knew they didn't understand, and that was okay. Because the truth was, he was having more fun than ever. Not the shallow, fleeting fun of distraction, but the deep, lasting satisfaction of progress, of becoming who he wanted to be. Later that night, Ryan sat on his balcony with a cup of tea, looking out at the city lights. He thought about the journey, about the person he used to be, stuck, aimless, frustrated, and the person he was now, clear, focused, growing. The transformation hadn't happened overnight. It was the result of thousands of small choices compounded over time. But the real magic wasn't in the choices themselves. It was in the identity they'd built. Ryan had learned the ultimate truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. If you see yourself as undisciplined, you'll find ways to stay undisciplined, even if you set ambitious goals. But if you see yourself as disciplined, you'll naturally do disciplined things, even when no one's watching. That's why identity is everything. Ryan pulled out his phone and texted Daniel, "Thanks for everything, man. I finally get it. Discipline isn't something I do. It's someone I am." A minute later, Daniel replied, "Exactly. And now that you know that, there's no limit to who you can become." Ryan smiled. He'd started this journey thinking discipline was about willpower, routines, and strategies. And those things mattered. They were the foundation. But the real transformation happened when discipline stopped being something external and became something internal. When it shifted from effort to identity. Now, Ryan didn't just have discipline, he was disciplined, and that made all the difference. Because when your actions are aligned with your identity, you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're not resisting temptation or forcing yourself to do hard things. You're just being yourself. And being yourself, that's effortless. The Power of Self-Discipline, Part 4, Final. Ryan's transformation was complete, or so he thought. He'd gone from someone who couldn't wake up on time to someone whose entire life was built on discipline. His identity had shifted. His habits were solid. His future looked bright. But here's what Ryan didn't expect. Once you become disciplined, people start noticing. And when they notice, they start asking questions. And when they ask questions, you realize that your transformation isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone you can help along the way. It started small. One day at the gym, a guy named Chris approached Ryan. "Hey, I've seen you here every morning for months. Same time, same routine. How do you stay so consistent?" Ryan smiled. "Honestly, I just decided this is who I am. Someone who shows up." Chris nodded slowly. "I keep trying to build that habit, but I always quit after a week or two." Ryan thought for a moment. "Can I ask you something? When you wake up, do you think of yourself as someone who works out, or someone who's trying to work out?" Chris paused. "Trying, I guess." "That's the problem," Ryan said gently. "When you're trying, there's always an out. But when you decide, this is who I am, there's no debate. You just do it. That conversation stuck with Chris. 2 months later, he came up to Ryan again. Man, what you said changed everything. I stopped trying and started being. I haven't missed a workout in 8 weeks. Ryan felt something unfamiliar. Pride, not in himself, but in helping someone else break through. Word spread. Slowly, friends started reaching out. His college buddy Jake texted him, "Dude, how'd you turn your life around? I'm stuck in the same loop you used to be in." Ryan met him for coffee and shared his story, the hard choice philosophy, the routine over motivation, the environment design, the identity shift, all of it. Jake listened, took notes, asked questions. A month later, he reported back. Grades improving, sleep schedule fixed, even started a side project he'd been putting off for years. Ryan's cousin Emma, who'd struggled in high school, was now acing her classes. She told her friends about the identity trick, and they started asking Ryan for advice too. One evening, Ryan sat with Daniel at their usual spot. "This is getting weird," Ryan said, half laughing. "People are treating me like some discipline guru. A year ago, I was a guy who couldn't get his life together." Daniel grinned. "That's exactly why they listen to you. You're not some naturally gifted person. You were just like them, and you changed. That gives them hope." Ryan thought about that. "I guess I never considered that my story could help other people." "That's the ripple effect," Daniel said. "You change, then you inspire someone else to change, and they inspire someone else. Before you know it, you've created a wave." Ryan felt the weight of that responsibility, but also the excitement. His transformation wasn't just personal anymore. It was becoming something bigger. A few weeks later, Ryan was asked to speak at a university event about personal development. At first, he hesitated. "I'm not a speaker. I'm just a student who figured some stuff out." But Daniel encouraged him. That's exactly what they need to hear. So Ryan agreed. The day of the event, Ryan stood in front of about 50 students. His hands were slightly sweaty, his heart racing. But he reminded himself, "I'm someone who shows up even when it's uncomfortable." He began. "A year and a half ago, I was stuck. I had dreams but no discipline, goals but no follow-through. I'd wake up late, waste time, feel guilty, and repeat the cycle. Some of you might relate." Heads nodded. "I thought disciplined people were just built different, like they had some superpower I didn't have. But then I learned something that changed everything. Discipline isn't a personality trait, it's a skill. And like any skill, you can learn it." He walked them through his journey, the hard choice framework, the motivation trap, willpower training, environment design, delayed gratification, and finally, the identity shift. "Here's the key," Ryan said, leaning forward. "Stop trying to be disciplined. Start being a disciplined person. It sounds like semantics, but it's everything. When discipline is something you do, it's exhausting. When it's who you are, it's automatic." After the talk, students lined up to ask questions, share their struggles, ask for advice. Ryan stayed for over an hour, listening, encouraging, guiding. One student, a girl named Maya, said, "I've tried so many times to change and failed every time. What if I'm just not capable?" Ryan looked her in the eye. "I thought the same thing. But capability isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Every single time you make a small choice aligned with who you want to be, you're building that capability. You're not broken. You just haven't committed to your identity yet. Maya's eyes welled up a bit. Thank you. I needed to hear that. As months passed, Ryan's influence continued to grow, not because he was trying to be an influencer or guru, but simply because he lived what he believed. His roommate Mark, who used to binge-watch shows every night, started waking up earlier and working on his business idea. "Watching you made me realize I was wasting my potential," Mark admitted. Ryan's mom called one day, emotional. "I don't know what happened to you, but I'm so proud. You've become such a strong, reliable young man." Even professors noticed. One pulled him aside after class. "Ryan, you've shown remarkable growth. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Students like you give me hope." Ryan was humbled, but he also recognized the truth. Transformation is contagious. When you change yourself, you give others permission to believe they can change too. One evening, Ryan was journaling, something he did every night now. He wrote, "I used to think success was about achieving big goals, and goals matter. But I've realized that the real success is becoming the kind of person who naturally achieves those goals. Because once you are that person, the goals take care of themselves." He paused, then continued, "Discipline gave me more than results. It gave me self-respect. It gave me confidence. It gave me the ability to trust myself, and that's worth more than any achievement." Ryan closed his journal and looked back at the past 18 months. The journey from chaos to clarity, from procrastination to purpose, from self-doubt to self-mastery. It hadn't been easy. There were days he wanted to quit, days he slipped back into old patterns, days he felt like a fraud. But he kept showing up, and over time, showing up became who he was. A year later, Ryan graduated with honors. He'd landed a full-time position at a great company, but more importantly, he'd built a life he was proud of, not because it was perfect, but because it was intentional. At his graduation party, Daniel pulled him aside. "Remember that day in the park? When you asked me why I tortured myself with discipline?" Ryan laughed. "Yeah, feels like a lifetime ago." "You've come so far," Daniel said. "I'm proud of you, man." "I couldn't have done it without you," Ryan said honestly. "You showed me it was possible." Daniel smiled. "I just pointed the way. You did the walking." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Ryan said, "You know what's crazy? I thought discipline would make my life harder, but it actually made it easier, because now I'm not constantly fighting myself. I'm aligned." Daniel nodded. That's the paradox. Discipline feels hard until it becomes you. Then it's the easiest thing in the world. A few months into his new job, Ryan was assigned to mentor a young intern named Lucas. Lucas reminded Ryan of his old self, talented but unfocused, ambitious but undisciplined. One day, Lucas confessed, "I want to be successful, but I can't seem to get my act together. I start strong, then fizzle out. It's frustrating." Ryan smiled knowingly. "Let me ask you something. When you think about your future, what do you see?" Lucas thought. "I see myself successful, financially stable, respected in my field." "Okay, now let me ask you this. Who do you need to be to get there?" Lucas looked confused. Ryan explained, "You're focused on the outcome, but outcomes are just the result of identity. If you want to be successful, you need to become the kind of person who does successful things. And that starts with small, daily disciplines." Over the next few months, Ryan worked with Lucas, not just on work tasks, but on building systems, routines, and most importantly, identity. 6 months later, Lucas was thriving. His work quality had skyrocketed. His confidence had grown. He thanked Ryan repeatedly. "Don't thank me," Ryan said. "You did the work. I just showed you the path." But deep down, Ryan felt fulfilled in a way achievements alone never brought. Helping others transform was its own reward. One Saturday morning, Ryan went for a run in the same park where Daniel had once explained the choose your hard philosophy. He stopped at the bench where they used to sit and reflected. He thought about the person he used to be, the guy who hit snooze, who procrastinated, who lived in a fog of guilt and regret. That person wasn't bad. He was just lost. He didn't know that change was possible. He didn't know that discipline wasn't restriction. It was freedom. Ryan pulled out his phone and recorded a voice note to himself. "If you're listening to this and you feel stuck, I want you to know something. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not incapable. You just haven't made the decision yet. The decision to choose who you want to be and commit to showing up as that person every single day. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. It's not about never failing. It's about never quitting. You will have bad days. You will slip. You will doubt yourself. That's normal. That's human. But if you keep showing up, even imperfectly, you will transform, not overnight, not in a week, but over time, with patience and persistence, you will become someone you're proud of. And here's the beautiful part. Once you change, you'll inspire others to change too. Your transformation will ripple out into the world in ways you can't even imagine. So start today, not tomorrow. Today, make one small choice aligned with who you want to be. Then make another and another. And before you know it, those choices will become habits. Those habits will become your identity. And that identity will become your life. You have everything you need. You just have to decide. Ryan stopped the recording, smiled, and kept running. Years later, Ryan would look back on this period as the turning point of his life. Not because of the grades, the job, or the achievements, but because of who he became. He learned that discipline isn't about punishing yourself. It's about loving your future self enough to make sacrifices today. He learned that motivation is unreliable, but identity is unshakable. He learned that willpower is limited, but systems are infinite. He learned that the life you want isn't found, it's built, one choice at a time. And most importantly, he learned that you are not stuck. No matter how long you've been living one way, you can change. You can decide today to be someone different. And if you commit to that decision, truly commit, nothing can stop you. Ryan's story doesn't end here, because transformation isn't a destination, it's a lifestyle. He still wakes up early, he still works out, he still makes disciplined choices, not because he has to, but because he wants to, because that's who he is. Some days are harder than others. Life still throws curveballs, challenges still arise. But now Ryan has something unshakable, a foundation built on discipline, identity, and purpose. And whenever he faces difficulty, he remembers the question that started it all. Which hard do you want to choose? Because life will always be hard. The question is, will it be the hard that breaks you down or the hard that builds you up? Ryan chose the latter, and that choice changed everything. The end. but also the beginning, because every ending is just a new starting point. And if Ryan's story has taught you anything, let it be this. You have the power to choose. You have the power to change. You have the power to become. So what will you choose? Who will you become? The answer starts today, right now, with one small decision. Make it count.